Hi there everybody, welcome to another Blossom Crochet tutorial. If you don't know, then my name is Rebecca, and if this is your first time visiting the channel, then just take a moment now to subscribe so that you don't miss any of the weekly crochet tutorials. Now this week we are going to be learning this beautiful Rainbow Road pattern. It is an extremely simple pattern. It is absolutely definitely a beginner friendly pattern as well. It is a simple 2-row repeat and you get these beautiful rainbow strips running through. So that is why I decided to go with the Rainbow Road name. So you've got solid sections and you've also got the more open sections with V-stitches. That just creates a really nice texture, but also you get the best of both with solids and slight gaps. So it does make the most beautiful pattern for nice summery baby blankets. So it is a pattern that will give you very nice straight edges. As you can see, they are perfectly straight edges, but as you can also see, it is not a pattern for the faint-hearted. If you plan to change colour every single row, it is going to be tail heavy, so just bear that in mind. But let's just crack straight on with the tutorial. So obviously you can use absolutely any yarn of your choosing. You can do it all in one colour, or you can do rows of different colours. You can have the solid rows in a contrasting colour. Literally just wing it, go with whatever you want. But I'm just using some odds and ends that I've got lying around purely for the purpose of the tutorial. So because we're going to be starting with a row on the V-stitch, you obviously want to start with one of the colours that you intend to use for your V-stitch rows. So obviously I'm starting with my slip knot on my hook, and I'm going to do a foundation chain in multiples of 3. So this foundation chain will be the width of your project. So yarn over and pull through. It's 1, 2, 3. So a multiple of 3. There we go, so I've completed a small foundation chain, but at this point, whatever number you have done, you want to add an additional 5 chains to the end of your work. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So now we are going to do a treble into the 4th chain from the hook, but do remember I'm using UK terminology, and in the US these are your double crochets. So find your 4th chain. You've got 1, 2, 3, and this is the 4th. So we're going to treble, so you'll yarn over, insert into that 4th chain, yarn over and pull up, and you'll have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, and that has created your first treble. But we want to do a V-stitch, so we're going to do a chain 1, and then back into that very same chain where you've just worked, you're going to put another treble. So yarn over again, insert back into that very same space, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So that is your first V-stitch. They will become much more apparent as we work along, and the funny little chain at the beginning, you just don't need to worry about that just at the moment. So we are now going to skip 2 chains on this foundation chain. So you're going to skip 1 and 2, and then you're going to work a V-stitch into the next. So a V-stitch is always 2 trebles, so yarn over and insert, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So it's always 1 treble, chain 1, and then back in the same space another treble. So we'll do that one more time. So that is another V-stitch created, and again you'll skip 1 and 2 and V-stitch into the next. So treble, chain 1, treble back in that same chain. So you can see we're starting to get our V's now, so you're going to continue working that all the way along, and that is where I will meet you in a second. So I've pretty much worked back to the end now. You can see I've got all of these lovely V's. I've done my last V-stitch, but I have got one final chain before my slip knot that I need to work into. And into that final chain, you are going to put one treble. So that very last chain is just going to have one treble on its own, and that is your foundation row done. However, if you're planning to change colours at this point, then don't complete this final treble. Make sure you stop with those 2 loops on your hook and bring whatever colour you're going to do your solid rows with if you're changing, and create yourself a loop with your new colour and pull it through those final 2 loops. Do a chain 1, but at no point does that count as a stitch. We are simply securing that colour change. So chain 1, and if you have finished with your very first colour, then you can snip it off, and I'm just going to tie a small knot just to keep things nice and secure. So at this point now I'm nice and secure, and I'm going to turn my work around, and into the top of this very first stitch that we have just completed, we are going to insert our hook into that stitch, go through the whole of the stitch making sure to get the V on the top, yarn over and pull up, and yarn over, pull through both. And then you can see that this stitch has got 2 vertical sections to it. You just want to pop your hook underneath the side one, and then again yarn over and pull up, yarn over and pull through both, and that just gives a treble height stitch that's nice and chunky without doing the chain 3, which will obviously leave a bit of a gap. We're then going to work a treble into the top of the next treble, which should be the first half of your very first V-stitch. So treble into, again, the whole of that stitch. We're then going to do a treble into the chain 1 space, so yarn over. So between your trebles you'll have that big chain 1 space. You're going to do a treble into there, and then treble into the top of your next treble, and treble into the next treble. So it's a really simple pattern. So we've trebled, treble in the chain 1 space, and then treble into the top of the next 2 trebles. It's 1, 2, and then in the chain 1 space. So if you want to continue working that all the way along now, and I will meet you back in just a second. I've gone all the way along now. I've done a treble into the final chain 1 space and into that final treble of that V-stitch, and now I just need to do one final treble into that funny little chain bit that we missed at the beginning. So it'll be next to the treble that you've just worked into. You'll just work through the top of, well, the best part you can get of that final funny little chain here. But again, if you're changing colours, don't pull through those final 2 loops. You'll get your new colour and pull it through. Grab that new colour, pull it through those final 2. Do your chain 1 to secure, so chain 1, and at this point you can snip off your other colour, and again I'm just going to tie them together. So these 2 rows that we are going to complete now are the simple 2-row pattern repeat. So you'll turn again, and into this very first stitch that we have just worked, that final treble, you'll insert your hook through the whole of the stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through 2, and then again you've got 2 vertical parts to the stitch. Insert your hook behind the one closest to your working end, yarn over and pull up, and yarn over and pull through both. Okay, so we're going to miss the top of this next stitch. So you've worked into the first one, we're going to miss the top of the next one, and then we're going to V-stitch into the one after that. So yarn over, skip one, and V-stitch. So treble, chain one, and treble all into that same stitch. Skip 2 stitches, so 1 and 2, and V-stitch into the next. So treble, chain 1, treble, and then again skip 2 stitches and V-stitch. So if you continue working that along, and I will meet you at the other end in just a moment. So skip 2 and V-stitch. So when you get to the other end, you should be doing a V-stitch, and then you should have 2 stitches left. So you'll skip 1 as we did at the beginning of the row and work your final single treble. So 1 treble into that very final treble from the previous row. But again, if you're changing colours, do not pull through those final 2 loops, and bring back your contrast colour, yarn over a loop and pull it through, and do your chain 1, and again snip off your other colour. So obviously this is not a blanket that you want to attempt if you're not a fan of weaving in ends, because it is quite a tail heavy project. So we are now back with the final row repeat. So you can see we've done another beautiful row of V-stitches. We're now going to turn our work once more, and just in the same way as we did last time, you're going to insert your hook through the hole of that first stitch, yarn over and pull up, yarn over, pull through both, and then again behind the vertical part of the stitch, yarn over, pull through both. And then in exactly the same way as before, you're going to do 1 treble into every single stitch and every single chain 1. So yarn over into that first treble, and in the chain 1 space, and in the next treble, and you'll work it all the way along as you did before, and I will meet you one final time at the end of this row just to finish up with the placement of that final stitch. So once you get towards the other end, you can see here I've worked into the final post, so the final part of that V-stitch, but I still have to make sure that I work into this very final coloured stitch here. So I always put a stitch marker in when you create that final stitch if you're not sure, but you just need to do 1 final treble into that very final stitch, and again don't complete your treble if you're planning to change colour. But there we have the next blocks of colour added. So those are the 2 rows that you are going to repeat over and over again until your project is as large as you need it to be. I just think it's a really nice simple pattern that gives you the best of both. You get some really nice solid stitches, but you also get some more open and breathy stitches as well. So I hope that that makes sense. But I really do hope that you've enjoyed this one, and remember to subscribe and come and find me on Instagram, and as always there are all kinds of relevant links in the description box. But I will see you for another tutorial very soon. Bye for now.